Hi guys, welcome to the show. It's great to be doing another show with you here today, and we've got something very important to talk to you about, something that's going on in the news this week, but most of us don't hear about it. Unfortunately, sometimes the way governments work these days, they rush legislation through, especially if they know that it's going to be contentious or it could be a difficult political issue. Unfortunately, something that happened this week is really, really bad for small business, and no one in the government has stood up and stood against this. And even the opposition hasn't made enough noise about this. So once again, Australian small businesses are going to be left to foot the bill. We've got record levels of inflation, record rental price growth, record high wages. We've got consumer confidence being extremely low. We've got the cost of supplies, fuel, and cost of goods and products going up. And just a really tight, high-pressure labour environment in which small businesses are being asked to try and deliver and run their small businesses. And I speak to small business owners every day. It's really, really tough out there. Drop a comment, drop a like, let us know what you do and what you're hearing, what you're seeing out there in the trenches. Small businesses, from what I can see, are doing it extremely tough. Cash flow is at an absolute record low, and a lot of people don't realise, a lot of the corporate class don't realise that small business owners are funding their own operations through difficult times. If they've got savings, they're dipping into their savings. If they own assets, they're borrowing and leveraging against those assets or borrowing from other family members. They are really doing it tough, and they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, and they're copping it from every side at the moment. I would say that we're still not really done with COVID in an economic sense. All that money that was splashed out, all that money that was given away for free, people spent it on plasma televisions and furniture and all sorts of things for their homes and their hobbies and holiday houses. And now it's coming home to roost. Now we've got businesses struggling. We've got families breaking up because of finance issues. We've got small business owners that have been in business for 10, 20 years that are having to fold. There was an article, I'll find it and put it in the link. There's a cafe called Contessa in Balmain in Sydney, a 20-year-old institution of that suburb. And when they went to renew the lease, it was 40% more than what they'd been paying. And very, very few businesses can afford to pay those sort of rental increases. So things are really tough out there for some small business owners. I don't believe our politicians are listening. They need to wake up. They need to get out there and buy from small business. They need to go and talk to small business owners. And conversely, us small business owners need to speak up more. It's really disappointing that we don't act in a better fashion in terms of acting as a group. There are very, very loud minorities in the Australian media landscape, political landscape at the moment, but small business is not one of them. We are probably the quietest, and we're not even really a small minority. There's millions of us, estimated to be around 3 million small business owners in Australia. So it's a fair chunk. If we vote together and we lobby together, there's a lot that we can actually achieve. So let me move to this news that has come to light recently. It's pretty hot off the press, and it basically happened 2 days ago when, on the final sitting week in Canberra, the government pushed through some IR reforms that they said were closing up loopholes, and there was wage suppression going on, and Australian companies and industry groups weren't really given a chance to review or respond, and there was this kind of typical argy-bargy, right? In Australia, it's pretty common for the trade union movement and others to criticise business for being, basically wanting loopholes and wanting to pay less wages. And it's typical for the business groups to be arguing that we exist in a market economy and the market does determine what those wages should be. It shouldn't be, communist level regulation around two people or two business owners, two small business owners doing a deal together. So it's a very adversarial system that we have in terms of industrial relations in this country. We've seen many prime ministers come and go because of them. John Howard, one of our longest serving prime ministers, suffered a lot because of his workplace reforms, under what he called work choices, if I'm not wrong. I think that's right. We've seen industrial relations be a real hot topic for a lot of political leaders in the country. So they tend to stay away or tend to favour the trade union movement. The combative approach it's unsurprising in Australia. It's pretty sad, but basically there's this idea that, business says profits are bad, and the lobby groups say, well, businesses hate their workers. And neither is true. We need to get to a point where we're actually growing the economy and therefore growing the country and providing some hope. So in the final sitting week, there was a secret deal, and the bill was actually called the Closing Loopholes Bill. So there was common ground on issues like first responders, PTSD, silicosis. The 11th hour deal, was bundled through with radical changes around labour hire and union access. Small business wasn't even consulted on these amendments. So that's really, really disappointing. And look, I'm really disappointed when they say that business is profitable and businesses make money and business is the bad guy, because that sometimes is what is in the common vernacular here in Australia. It's business is bad, business is the bad guy. The truth is that 98% of all businesses are small and they feel hardships every single day. You think about your daily life, chances are that you're probably going to a small business that sells your coffee. Chances are that if you've had a tradie come into your house, they're a small business, a builder. Your doctor or dentist is a small business. Many, many services, tutoring for your children. You may take them to a sports or a childcare facility, small business. We are constantly in touch with small businesses and dealing with them every day. And you can see the owner behind the counter. You can see the owner managing the childcare centre. This is not a $1 billion kind of mining magnate that you're dealing with, and all business owners are looped together in one group, and that's pretty disappointing because, as I said, there are many different businesses in this country, 98% of which are small and have problems that come up every day. In fact, this statistic shocked me. Like I said, I'll put the link of this article below, but the data from the Small Business Ombudsman indicates that 43% of small businesses are not breaking even. So let me say that again. This is from the Ombudsman, so this means that this is factual. 43% of small businesses in Australia today are not breaking even. For those of you that don't know what breaking even means, that means that you're not making a profit, but you're not losing money either. So you're just managing to cover your costs. That is dangerously high for almost half of the businesses in this country to be losing money. That's what that statistic says. By not breaking even, it means they are unprofitable. Some of which may be trading insolvent, which is even more dangerous. And there are legal ramifications for trading while insolvent as well. So 43% of small businesses are not breaking even, and yet we've got industrial relations reforms that are going to make it harder for small business. Most small business owners are still paying themselves a below average wage. They're absorbing costs. They're keeping the lights on. There's a baker in my suburb who used to have 3 guys come in at 2 a.m, start the baking. He used to come in at 5 a.m, help out, set the shop up, work all day, go home at 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. I ran into him the other day and he looked dead. And I said, mate, what's going on? And he said, well, I had to get rid of the workers. Times are really tough. 2 a.m. starts are expensive. Even then, I couldn't find many people to work. And so I'm doing the 2 a.m. starts and I'm running the shop. And, you know, it's such a common thing. People don't realize that small business owners often don't even have time for a toilet break. Forget a lunch break, right? They're taking on that much stress and that much pressure that they don't even have time for a toilet break. So it's not easy out there. It's not easy out there, and getting harder thanks to the government as well. So what's disappointing is that we shouldn't be burdening small businesses. We should be unleashing them. We should be giving them freedoms. We should be helping them along so that they can go on to be profitable and be successful. But some of these IR changes that have happened, and some of them that are under consideration, one of them which is called the Closing Loopholes Bill, it's only going to create more complexity. There's a raft of measures on there. You know, it's going to affect casuals, independent contractors, gig workers, the trucking industry, and the definition of employment, the idea of equal pay for equal work. So it's really a difficult time for small business, or employers, I should say. If you're a solo business owner, a solopreneur, it doesn't really affect you. You've got your own setup, you're doing what you do. This is more if you're employing people. But this will apply to, as I said, almost 3.5 million Australian casuals and contractors. And at the end of the day, what does this mean? I mean, there's employees like students and carers who are facing the very real prospect of losing some of their casual loading, of small business owners saying, you're too expensive now, I'm going to work it myself. You know, in the example of the baker that I gave you, I don't know whether those 3 employees have found other work, but if they haven't, making him pay them more has not helped the worker. All it has done is increased unemployment, put higher stress on the small business owner, which means if the business falters or it closes, there's lower taxes for the government, a lower standard of living for the community. So small business is the very best social good that we can have in a community. And to see it being treated this way is very, very disappointing. I would urge all of you to write to your local members, go and raise some concerns around these issues. It's very, very hard when you hear about some of these decisions being made in Canberra to have any perspective and you think, well, it's all against us. I urge you and I promise you that if enough of us get together and actually complain, if we reach out to ministers, there is a small business minister federally, there are also state ministers that we can reach out to, we can make a difference. I have seen it happen before around a number of issues with different governments, but it all comes down to how loud our voice is. And whether that's by sharing this video, tagging a minister in it, making your own submissions to government, or through combined chambers of commerce. Local chambers of commerce are great. They have a more powerful voice often than an individual business owner. Whatever that is, whatever it is that we can do together to make a difference, I think is very, very important, because if we don't stand up and do anything, this government is not going to do anything for us. In fact, no government is going to do anything for us. It's time that we stood up and we took responsibility for the fact that we decided to be entrepreneurial. This used to be an entrepreneurial country, and we want to retain that spirit and in fact bring it back, because it seems to have been lost, and it's not an Australia that a lot of us want to see. We want to see small business thriving in this country. We want to see people coming here, whether they're migrants, whether they're born here, knowing that if they go out on their own, if they get fired from a job, if they, for whatever reason, are deemed unemployable, we hear about discrimination, whatever they've gone through, it might be an elderly worker, that if you start a business, we've got your back. The government urges you to start business. The government wants you to contribute to society and to pay taxes. And I think the pendulum has swung too far the other way, and we need to do something about it collectively. So, guys, gals, help me in this fight, and we will bring you more relevant news about stuff like this in the future. Thank you very much.